what we're talking about this morning for the next 20 minutes is a feeling that a lot of our clients have been suffering with, and actually we've also been suffering with ourselves, and friends and family have also all been experiencing the same thing, I think, which is this feeling of being overwhelmed by the amount of things that we have going on now versus the last 18 months where we were largely at home with our small compact nuclear family, and then suddenly life started returning to normal, or I don't know if normal's the right word, returning to pre-COVID ways of living, which everyone was really excited about, and of course there are loads of benefits to, but actually it's the result is that people are feeling quite overwhelmed and struggling with anxiety and other issues as a result of it. So I've certainly seen that in my clients. I think you guys have as well.
Yeah. For me, the lots of my clients are coming through who just have feeling so demotivated. They just can't get themselves back into feeling inclined to go to the gym or to eat healthily or do anything. They just like lost the will to live almost, and they're finding it sort of very difficult to understand why. We've been let free, we've been allowed to go back to working in the office and going out to restaurants and things like that, but they just can't get themselves to do it. And it's sort of like people have lost confidence in themselves. They've just lost the ability to get back in connect with other people, and it's really sort of strange. It is strange.
I think as well, it's also, I'm seeing also from my emotional eating clients, a lot of the same kind of pattern coming up of, I haven't actually seen some of my friends for a really long time. And now, and obviously I put on a little bit of weight, and what are they going to think? And so that kind of level of social anxiety and outside judgment is also being heightened up a level, because people are like, oh, I haven't had my hair done for ages, or I haven't, I'm not as turned out, and actually I don't care about it as much. So also their priorities have changed. So they're like, do you know what, I've had this time off to reassess, and I've actually realized I don't care as much about this, and now I've got to go back to it and go back to that office environment where there's chat in the kitchen, or we've got to do this, we've got to go out and socialize with colleagues or whatever. And actually I don't want to. I've actually been perfectly fine this whole time. Why am I being made to do it? So it's that kind of, so now what do I do?
Do even from my own self, I feel like when we went into lockdown, it was like go, everything's okay, keep working, make sure the kids are okay. And then coming out of it, I actually do want to see people. I really want to go and see my friends. I really want to go and see family, but I'm not really that bothered about my responsibilities. I'm a bit like, well, now I deserve a holiday after getting myself and getting my family through all that tough time, and we got through it. And now I just want to chill and watch TV and, just relax for a year, to make up for it. And I think a lot of people are feeling like that. It's just feeling like they're having, like, I feel, a lot of my clients saying they're feeling like their normal work or their normal responsibilities is causing them a lot more stress. They're having to dig a lot deeper in order to show up for their normal everyday life. And
I had a client yesterday who was saying that she's been working for like 10 years. She's a young woman, two very small kids, 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. And she said for the first time ever, she resents having to go to the office. She's a financial an analyst for an Emirati company. And she said for the first time ever, she feels resentful that she's got to go there and sit there and push paper around and go to boring meetings, which is taking away from the time that she could be spending with her children. And she never saw it like that before lockdown. It was just like, okay, I got pregnant, I had the baby, and then I went back to work again because that's what everybody else did. But now she's like, but actually, I want to be at home. I don't want to be wasting my time here. And she said, if I had a valuable job, maybe it would be different. But I don't want to be sitting there doing a job which she doesn't feel is at all satisfying when she could be at home with her children. And she resents having to leave them with a nanny now because she's just really enjoyed that time with the children.
Like now
I know, I mean, yeah. And now she can't, she's got to go back to work, and it's like she just doesn't have the patience, so she's getting irritable and with her sort of manager and you know, people that she works with, whereas before she just sort of she'd sort of just did it, you know, but now she doesn't want to just do it.
Like now that people have had a taste of it, isn't it? It's like someone said
Yeah.
to me this morning, a client said to me this morning that now that he's had a taste of not having to travel to work and back every day, because he's just been working from home, every minute that he spends on the commute, even though it's not that long, he resents it, because he's like, oh gosh, it's a waste of my time, because he's not had to do it for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tess, you were going to say something?
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's that reprioritizing again, isn't it? It's that actually I've realized that there is a different way, and even people who I used to work with have been working from home now for over a year, and they've just got to go back to the office this last couple of weeks. And they're finding, a couple of them are like, but you know, working from home, I can manage my people on their time frame and on my time frame without anyone having to watch, and I've proved that I've been able to do it, so can I not just keep doing it, please? You know, like, can we carry on? So I think it's that idea that people have had a glimpse of what does actually work, and now the old excuses don't come into play. You know, they're not relevant. A lot of the time people are told, no, you can't work part-time, you can't work from home, it doesn't work, we're worried about your productivity. And now all these companies are still, you know, were able to survive through, not everyone obviously, but mostly able to survive through COVID on that kind of basis. And people are finding it hard to kind of say, well, why can't I do it now? If it was okay then, and we kept the company alive and afloat, what's the problem?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what, I mean, the only thing though, I mean, because I agree with all of that, and I feel like that myself, and I get why people do, and I really empathize with my clients that do, but from my own experience, again, I've been doing this networking thing, which you guys know about, which has been, you know, once a week on Zoom. When they said we were going back to face to face, I was really resistant, because I was like, why do we need to? I'm going to have to get up a whole hour and a half earlier. Yeah. You know, it's just as good on Zoom. It's more convenient for me. But then I went to the face to face, and it was a completely different experience. I left there buzzing. I was connecting with people. So I just feel like there's sort of some in between that needs to happen. We went from the one extreme to the other extreme, and it's a little bit like, you know, getting used to lockdown is a little bit like, I just wrote it down, it's a little bit like, you know, when you wear pregnancy trousers and then you're so used to wearing them that you don't want to go back to your normal jeans.
Oh, they were the most comfortable jeans ever though.
Yeah, and you know, eventually you've got to though, right? You can't just live in pregnancy jeans the rest of your life, or pregnancy. So it's a little bit like that, isn't it? It's like, okay, how do we just bring ourselves back from pregnancy jeans, not quite into like skinnies, but like somewhere midway that's like comfy. I don't know, you know, it's just a bit like that. Maybe we got a bit too comfortable.
Yeah, but I mean, I was reading this book the other day, and in like within the first 20 pages or something, they cited a study which was done in like 2010. And what they found is that actually they tested all these participants, and they said what they were thinking about had more of a determined more on their levels of happiness than what they were actually doing. So like maybe people are going back to work and it's the same as it was before, and actually it's not so bad, but because in their head they're saying this sucks, it's gonna suck, right? It's like when you feel in a bad mood, or when you really don't want to go and do something and you go and do it, but the whole time you're sitting there like a bit of a mizog in the corner because you're like, oh, I can't get out of my head. It's that inner voice. So if people can then, I mean, because a lot of people, you can't change the situation, right? You can't change the fact that you have to get out of your pregnancy pants and get back into your skinny jeans. Like you have to, it's a part of life, but it's reframing that conversation in your head. Because otherwise, if you sit there the whole time and think, these are not as comfy. Yeah, these are not as comfy. Why am I wearing skinny jeans? Why do I have to put high heels on back again? It's going to be really terrible, rather than just saying, okay, cool.
Yeah.
This is
but you know how often you're in a situation where you're sitting there and you think, oh God, I really don't want to be here. And you're just like miserable person in the corner. And then suddenly something happens or somebody says something and you're sort of like, oh, hang on, actually, this isn't so bad. And then you sort of get into it. And once you get involved in it, and then you sort of think, why was I so grumpy at the beginning of this. It was actually really interesting or really fun or whatever. So it is all about mindset.
Absolutely. Well, that's definitely what I found when I went to the networking thing. I loved it, and I'm now so glad that we're doing them back face to face. So what can we say to people? What are you guys saying to your clients that are struggling with this feeling of being overwhelmed, feeling a little bit anxious, feeling like it's a lot to handle, that their normal life or their previous life is a lot to handle? What are your tips for those people?
Mine is to just take each day at a time. Just sort of like say, okay, tomorrow I'm going, the most difficult step is the first step out the door. Once you're out of the door and you see, your neighbors walking past or the traffic or whatever, and you sort of think, oh, actually, this is nice to be out. And then you get on the bus and maybe the bus driver remembers seeing you and, oh, hi, how have you been? And, you'll get into it. And it's just like, take each day at a time. Don't sort of like think about it in the long term at the moment. Just say, okay, tomorrow is the beginning of the next chapter. And just go in with an open mind. Keeping the open mind, being flexible is important, rather than going in there, as you say, with that negative, I'm being dragged back reluctantly and it's going to be miserable. Keep an open mind. Start your day, jump out of bed and say, right, yippee, I can do this. I've got this. And that's the best way to start.
Tess, you were saying something about a book you've been reading. What was that about?
Yeah, that's it's Chatter. It's by this guy called Kross. And he's like an experimental psychologist and neuroscientist, and he's actually in the study of emotions and self-control. And then he found himself in a situation where his inner voice was effectively just like completely messing with him, to the point where he was up in the middle of the night kind of parading around. Anyway, that's a separate story, but the whole book explores the idea of your inner voice, why it's important and how to harness it, because your inner voice is really great when you need to kind of be reminded of something, like, oh, I need to remember to take the chicken out the oven or something, or out the freezer, but it's not great when you are in those situations where you're kind of worrying about, anxious about a situation, or have I gotten really dark?
Yeah. We'll see.
What happened?
I'm not sure.
Hold on.
But yeah, go on with what you were saying. What was that about? So when people, there we go, that's better.
Yeah. So when you are stuck in your mind and you're thinking about something negatively, it can really hold you back from everything. So this book is great because he's also got at the end of it tips for things that you can do on your own and tips for how you can help on others. One of the actually really cool ones that I read, which I'm kind of trying to tell to people, to my clients at the moment as well, is to build a board of advisors, right? Because this is quite a normal feeling. It's to normalize this experience. Everyone's having to go back into some version of life, and everyone, I think most people are struggling with it on some kind of level. So normalizing that experience, but also relying on the people around you. So building a board of advisors was really helpful, because you can kind of say to somebody, like, if I needed some motivation to get out the door and go to like a new class that I had to go to yesterday with a new bunch of people, I would call you, Louisa, because I know you would be like, come on, you're going to love it. It's fine, go for it. If I needed someone to give me a hug, I would go to Dan. I wouldn't go to Dan for motivation necessarily, because he's more of a realist, but he might be like, oh, what are you going to do? But that sounds scary. But building a panel of people that you would go to just to help you and to normalize your experience as well, so that
Such
you
a good
share
way.
those feelings. And once you get them out, they also become less, everything that you think about. It's that kind of circuit breaker, isn't it, of just saying, okay, now it's out there, it's less overwhelming,
daunting.
Yeah, speaking about it and hearing other people how other people are feeling the same, feeling different, can just really help, can't it? I think one of the things that I really like to use, like, it's actually a really good tool for so many different things, but it's really applicable to this as well, is using actual notes around the house to program in the thought that you want to have, because thoughts and feelings can become a habit, right? And they're coming from our subconscious mind. So if we just keep thinking, oh God, I don't, oh no, work, or oh God, I don't want, I'm so busy right now, I'm so busy, and I don't have any down, everything's too full on, and blah blah blah, I can't catch a break. Those thoughts and feelings are just coming from the subconscious mind, going round and round and sort of beating us down all day long. Which is really hard to change, because we can't change our subconscious mind just by thinking. We can't say, well, I don't like that thought anymore. Otherwise, if we could, then people could just think their way out of phobias, panic attacks, habits, smoking, everything. We can't, right? We can't just choose to reprogram our subconscious mind and change it of our own accord with our conscious mind. But what we can do is we can create conscious mind prompts around the house. So I often do this with people that are struggling with like low self-esteem, or even with quit smokers, so I get them to put notes around the house in places that they will often be, whether it's above the kettle, back of the bedroom door, bathroom mirror. So anything that is the thought that you want to have, if you just write it and put it there, it's not a point of, it's not. So, and I say to them, when you see it, say it out loud. But if you don't see it, it's completely okay, because it's going into your subconscious mind through your peripheral vision and all that wonderful stuff that's happening in the subconscious anyway. So for this, for example, for people that are feeling overwhelmed, and it's something I use for myself, if I find that I'm starting to feel overwhelmed and I'm feeling too busy, which I can often do because I fill up my life a lot, is rather than going, oh my God, I'm so busy, I don't have time to breathe, it's going, my life is really full of amazing things. Or at the start of the day, my day is full of amazing things today. And it just gives me a lot more lightness, even if I don't truly believe it yet. Just repeating that 5 times a day, I will feel better at the end of the day, and I'll certainly feel better at the end of the week. Right? So I often say to people, just put these notes, just write it on a bit of paper, put it behind the laptop is a great place where people put them. And like you said, bathroom mirror, back of the door, above the kettle. So it could be, my life is full of amazing things. Or if someone's feeling really stressed out about life going back to normal, it could be what would it be that someone would want to think? I'm looking forward to experiencing new things, or I like having an experience. I don't know, I like having a full life. Maybe just I like a full life. Like something really simple could be really useful. I might see if I can think of someone. I might do a Facebook post about that actually.
Actually, a TED talk that you recommended or that we look at was, I think his name was Tim Fox or something like that. And he was saying that one of our problems is that holds us back is ruminating on the negatives. And he was saying in that TED talk that you recommended that, write it down, park it, put it on a wall, say, right, okay, I put that there, I'll go back to that later. And by doing that, it sort of almost tells the subconscious mind, okay, I've written it down, so I'm not going to forget it. I'm just going to put it there and I'll get back to it later. And that enables you to then move on rather than ruminating, and we have this sort of like, we ruminate, because actually what we're trying to do is find a solution, but there isn't always an immediate solution. But if we just park it, very often by the time we go back to it, the solution has presented itself, because whilst we've not been thinking about it, the subconscious mind's actually been working on it in the background. And it's like, suddenly, how it happens to us all. You're in the shower and you suddenly think, oh, light bulb moment, I know what to do, because you stopped worrying about it. And so the solution has sort of bubbled to the surface. So that was a great little TED talk by that guy. What was his name? Do you remember?
I can't remember which one
you were talking about, maybe doing a course with him. Is it Tim Fox?
Yeah, Tim Fox. I am going to do that.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing.
TED talk, Mum, because Louise, we've been talking about it. I found a TED talk on his website, I think, wasn't it, about anxiety?
You sent me the link to it, Tess. Yeah, it was amazing.
But even like Martin Seligman, that's like the godfather of positive psychology, he says, for sound evolutionary reasons, many of us are not nearly as good at dwelling on good events as we are at analysing bad events. Those of our ancestors who spent a lot of time basking in the sunshine of good events when they should have been preparing for disaster did not survive the Ice Age. So to overcome our brain's natural catastrophic bent, we need to work on and practice this skill of thinking about what went well. He's doing that in reference to an exercise of his where at the end of each day, you write about what went well today, 3 things that went well. And it's such a great thing to do, actually. It's like the gratitude list, but rather than doing it in the morning, it's on reflection. And I really do the what went well list every night as well. I love it. But it's a really easy thing to do with kids that are struggling as well, because as they're going to bed, you can say to them, what went well today? Tell me 3 things that went well. And it could be so simple. Have my favorite dinner. I did, I played with my friend at school, and daddy picked me up, or whatever, so it's a really good way to just like get, as like you said, Mum, balance out the rumination on the negativity.
Actually, you do that already with your kids, don't you, Tess, at night when
we do it at dinner time. We say, what was the best thing about your day? What was the worst thing? What would you change? What are you looking forward to tomorrow? And we kind of go around the table when we're having dinner together and do that, which is quite nice.
We're getting close to the end, so we're going to have to wrap it up, but we did have a couple of questions from people which we might want to just quickly talk about. Tess?
Question.
Well, I had a comment from a client who said that he loved the simplicity and the smallness of lockdown, and his worry now is that life is going to get complicated again, and he's going to feel stressed and tired. And he said he feels like he doesn't want to get sucked back into how it was, because actually on reflection he doesn't think that was the right way to live, the way he was living before. So he wants to try and find some sort of in-between place, which I guess is what we were talking about earlier, is like the pregnancy genes, But we don't necessarily need to go back to stilettos every day. We just need to find some nice sort of balance.
I actually, part of this book as well, in Chatter, what they were saying is that your environment and what you actually see can have such an impact on your mind and the way your positive thinking or your negative your emotional levels. And so on it, they said there was like a whole chapter on really playing on that idea of incorporating nature, because obviously when there's so much research being done on sounds of nature, increasing productivity when people are working, viewing, like being out in the forest and things like that. But if you don't have physical access to green spaces, just changing the desktop on your laptop already creates, or having photos of your loved ones on your desk already creates more positivity being reflected back out at you. Because what's really hard for people, I think, at the moment is maybe they've realized they're not 100% happy going back to work, but there's nothing they can do about it right now. Not everyone can just kind of say, do you know what, I've had enough of this, I'm going to quit my job and go off and travel the world.
Salt bath.
But go do something new. But they just can't. They've got responsibilities and things. But maybe changing a few of those things is a really very simple tool to kind of hack your brain into changing the way that you're thinking and changing your response to things.
Absolutely. Tess, did you have a question from somebody?
Oh yeah, I did. I had a question from someone who was saying the biggest challenge is the uncertainty of the future. From planning a weekend to book friends they haven't seen for a while, to planning nights out and booking festival tickets without the fear of it being cancelled. And I guess that, heartbreak of, or the uncertainty is the biggest thing, isn't it?
Actually, I did. I read about a test or another one of these sort of studies that they did. They took a bunch of primates with this, so there was mum and baby, and they put them into 3 groups. One group, they gave easy access to food. They didn't have to struggle for it at all. It was always there available. Another group, the food was available, but they had to work for it. They had to find it. They had to reach for it. They had to dig it up and that sort of thing. But the food was there. And the middle group, some days the food was easy to get, and some days it was very difficult to get. So they mixed the two. So they had, one day sort of like that group and one day like that group. And then they, after a sort of like a month of putting them through this trial, they then analyzed their stress levels. And the group that didn't know whether it was going to be easy or not were the ones that struggled most.
Yeah.
Because we do, you know, as I mentioned in the blog, we actually, as a race, we will try and, you know, meet challenges. We for survival, you know, we will try and overcome difficulties, but we struggle when we don't know. And, you know, is there any point me doing this because it might have to be cancelled? But I think we've got to move on from that now and just sort of think positively and say, well, I'm going to book it. And if it gets cancelled, then I'll deal with it. But we can't just spend the next 10 years of our lives saying, oh, like, you know, maybe I'll book that, maybe I won't, because then you don't book it and then it does happen and then you're disappointed. And so, so I think we've got to get over that mindset of being afraid.
A lot of things are giving refunds, and you know, there are a lot of clauses in place now where if you book something and then if it has to be closed because of COVID, you'll get your money back and what have you. I guess as well, it's just going to be, as people have more and more positive experiences, then their subconscious mind is going to feel a lot more confident about stepping out and making plans, you know, because it's maybe being burnt a couple of times, but as we go to more things, it's like, oh no, it is possible. Oh, it is possible. I went last week, so I think it'll be okay. So I think that confidence will grow again. What do you think?
I think it's also that because it is really disappointing, isn't it, when you make a plan, then something changes and you can't go. I mean, I know that I've had a few times where I thought, yay, I can get home to England, and it's not happened, and I've kind of been hit by like a truck of grief almost for a day or two. But it's kind of coming out and putting it into perspective as well. In a month, what's going to be happening? In 6 months, like, has that situation changed? In a year, has that situation changed? And especially when you zoom out from a situation, from that kind of stuff, like, what about this trip that I really want to go on? Or it may be upsetting, and it is, and it's disappointing as well. But in a year, will we be able to do it? Yes. Okay.
Will I be bothered about missing it now?
Probably. Yeah, exactly. Like, in a year, will I have a chance to go to that concert next time they come here, or visit my friend, you know, in that place in 6 months instead of today? Yes. Okay, great. Then let's just breathe and just be like, okay, that's
not the end of the world.
Yeah, that's not the end of the world. We don't
have the end of the world.
Yeah. And remember that for every one person, you know, you hear the bad stories, and you know, oh, you know, they had such trouble, their flight got cancelled, you know, whatever didn't happen. But for every one person, that negative story you do hear, there's probably 100 other people where it did work, but they don't say anything. They don't go on there and say, oh, by the way, I caught that flight. And it was because, you know, they just did, and they got on with it.
Yeah.
And this is this whole, you know, the way our minds work, the reticular activation system that's constantly looking for negatives, because negatives are the threat. And we've got to stop just focusing on the negatives and think, yeah, but for that one person that the flight got cancelled, there were 100 other flights that day that took off without any problem. And that's what we've got to focus on.
Yeah, that's true.
Right, I'm going to have to put it to a close because it's now 27 minutes already. So
wow.
Covered a lot of stuff. I think there's a lot of things we wanted to cover that we didn't, but that's all in the blog. And we have a hypnosis track that we're going to upload as well. So there'll be lots of information for people everywhere on our social media and on our website. And if they want any more, they can get in touch with us directly. Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Excellent.
I'll end the recording. Bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.